Hello, my name is Chitta. I am one of Bante's students, and we decided to try and help Bante because he doesn't live at a fixed monastery. Wherever he goes becomes a monastery, and therefore he doesn't have a fixed donation box where people can make offerings. So we've added a link below that you can make a donation to help protect the sasana and help support this wonderful monk if you feel that way inclined. Thank you. Be well.
Today is session number 99 in our Sutta exploration series. And for today's Sutta, I chose to discuss the Sīha Sutta, or the discourse dedicated to General Sīha. General Sīha was a very powerful general from Vesali, ancient India, and modern day Vaishali. And he was one of the primary guardians of the principality or the region of India, of Vesali, that was governed by the Lichavi princes. They were the rulers. They didn't have a king, but they had a number of princes. And in time, they became very devout practitioners and students of Lord Buddha's. They would love talking about the teachings. They would love talking about Lord Buddha because they cared so much about the sasana, about Lord Buddha specifically. And that had its impact on their citizens, starting with the generals. So here we're going to see General Sīha, who is a rather devout follower of Mahavir. Mahavir was, in the Buddhist texts, he's always referred to as Nigantanata Buddha. He was the 24th Tirthankara, or the manifestation of their teachers, masters of the Jain tradition. So this is, in that sense, in a few other ways, the predecessor sutta to what we have already covered in the Upali Sutta several years ago, well, about 3 years ago, where we had the layman Upali, who also was a devout follower of Mahavira, the Jain teacher that was a contemporary of Lord Buddha's, who did not like or care for what Lord Buddha was teaching, what he stood for, his bhikkhus, especially because many of Mahavira's own lay supporters, one after the other, and sometimes in groups, were leaving him, or leaving their teacher, Mahavira, and they were going and joining Lord Buddha. They were taking Lord Buddha as their own teacher and taking refuge in the Triple Gem, and also declaring to Lord Buddha and to everyone that they were now lifelong supporters of the sasana. So Upali Sutta, in time, came after this particular incident, that we will be discussing today from the Sīha Sutta, and it comes from the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of the Eights. So it's the Attaka Nipata, Book of the Eights, and it's number 8.12, AN 8, as in Book 8, the 12th Sutta. It is important for you to bear in mind, to look at the role of teacher and student here that you will see coming across. That's one. The other is to see your role as students, wherever you stand, however you look at yourself, your practice, in connection to the teaching, specifically the Dhamma. And what is it that you are really after? What is it that you are really trying to gain from being here, from listening to these suttas, reading these suttas? These are important questions which people don't often ask. We don't ask these questions. We usually take it for granted and we just follow the caravan silently. Could be our own caravan, meaning the way we have been living our life, doing the same old, as the saying goes. But a teacher is one who will challenge us. Now, the teacher could be in the form of the Dhamma. Or, if you're lucky, you actually will see a flesh and blood type of a teacher. Asking some questions, or putting you in a situation where you will ask yourself some questions, important ones, which pulls you out of that caravan. Here, the caravan is a metaphor that I'm trying to use for being stuck in the magic of the mind, in the delusion. What we keep telling ourselves, have been telling ourselves. About ourselves, about where we are, especially in the context of the teaching or the spiritual path or paths, plural, and what you're doing to in response to those things. And getting out of the caravan here is a metaphor I'm trying to use for breaking loose from the mundane and landing in the urgent. What matters the most? Urgency should matter the most. Samvega should matter the most. Because so long as we're living as if we are immortals, we will never feel the pinch of dukkha. We will always be camouflaging it, lying to ourselves, covering up for it, with pleasures, with this, with that. Well, one thing's for sure, we are not leaving the caravan, hiding behind the bull, the ox, other tendencies and things. So here we see an example of a person who jumped out of the caravan, jumped out of what was going well for him, for all intents and purposes. And this is where your curiosity really is extremely important. This is what I sometimes mention to students, that we are in need of bringing out within us, from the heart, this childlike curiosity. adventuresome spirit within us to find out, to learn, to want to learn, and to be different in that sense from the others, society, other people, what we have been doing thus far. Simply because you've been doing things a certain way does not mean you need to continue on doing it. Intellectually, we accept this, but when it comes to living experientially, that's a different story altogether. So here in the example of General Sīha, I would like for you to see that part of him in the presence of also having tremendous respect for one's own teacher, which he obviously, you'll see, has. But soon enough, you need to ask yourself, what's happening? And that is also requiring you to be courageous. And the term courageous, especially in this case, his name is Sīha. Sīha also is a reference for lion, the courage of a lion. You probably have heard, or we've done at least one sutta in the past, Sīha Sutta, the lion's roar. There's nothing like it. That's why all the animals in the forest, in the jungle, shudder in just hearing it. Sīha also means that. So let's see if we can actually find those qualities as we go over this sutta, the Sīha Sutta, the General Sīha. And hopefully we will be inspired to look for our own Sīha within us, the courage, the courageous lion, the curious. Hero, to want to break away from the old patterns of doing and being a certain way, which leaves us in the disarray of dukkha. That's why Samvega is important beyond any measure, to pull us out, because nothing else is going to pull you out of that safety of being, the fake safety of being in the caravan. And that's why you also need to be courageous to take it upon yourself that I'm fine. Trusting. That's where the courage comes from. So, AN 8.12, Anguttara Nikaya 8.12. Let's begin. At one time, the Blessed One was living in the gabled hall with a peaked roof in the great forest in the princely city of Vesali. It was during that time that many well-known Lichavis had assembled together, who, while seated in their assembly hall, kept talking in praise of the Blessed One, the Dhamma, and the Sangha of Bhikkhus. The Lichavis are the Lichavi princes I mentioned earlier. The bosses of the generals, think of it like that. Meanwhile, seated among them, General Sīha, who was a devout follower of Nigantha Mahavira, began reflecting. Well, surely the Blessed One must indeed be an Arahant, a perfectly awakened one, for all these well-known Lichavi princes to come and assemble here together and talk in such continuous praise of the Blessed One, the Dhamma, and the Sangha of Bhikkhus. Now, I am truly eager to go and see the Blessed One, the Arahant, the perfectly awakened one, myself. Wouldn't you be? If this is happening again and again by people you respect, and you have never seen him. So, General Sīha went and approached Nigantha Mahavira, and said to him, his own teacher, Bhante, I desire to go and approach the recluse Gautama. And Nigantha said, Sīha, You being a man of action, why would you even want to go and see the recluse Gautama, who is all about inaction, teaching indifference and impassivity to his students? Sīha, the recluse Gautama, teaches inaction, instructing indifference to his disciples, encouraging inaction and passivity. So basically, these are like the antithesis of a general, a man of action, a warrior. So you can tell from the formulation of trying to dissuade his own student, General Sīha, what tactics he's using. Mahavira. He's very sneaky, very crafty, and insidious also, even though he happens to be one of the world religions today. The Jains worship him. He's their teacher. He's their founder in a sense. So they're not going to accept this. But the suttas that we have from the Pali Nikayas, those are like the historical records of what was happening, despite what other people believe about their founder. I mean, so many different crimes took place by, being paid by the Jains, by him, So here we see an example of him being afraid of losing one of his key supporters because he knows what will happen. Many of his other students had already left him because they would go to listen, because that's what you do. If you're truly curious, you will want to go and learn by asking questions. No teacher has proprietary rights, as it were, or possesses their students. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There cannot be, even though that's what we have been seeing in the world for centuries. No self-respecting teacher would treat their students as if they are his or hers belonging. That's ludicrous. You never see that throughout the suttas about Lord Buddha and his students. Monks, or even monks and nuns, he wouldn't treat them as if they're his belonging, as it were. It's ugly. It doesn't belong in the holy life, such a way of looking. But here we see just that, because he's feeding lies into the ears of Sīha. And let's see what happens as a result. In hearing these words, General Sīha's intentions of going to see the Blessed One subsided. Well, what do I know? He's the teacher. He's the wise old teacher. And look how many followers he has. So he must know something. I've never met Gautama, despite what my masters are saying, his accolades. He must know better. Okay, so I'll listen to him. Then, for the second time, many well-known Lichavis again assembled together, who, while seated in their assembly hall, kept talking in praise of the Blessed One, the Dhamma and the Sangha of Bhikkhus. Meanwhile, again, seated among them, General Sīha, who was a devout Jain, a follower of Niganthanataputta, began reflecting. Well, surely the Blessed One must indeed be an Arahant, a perfectly awakened one, for all these well-known Lichavi princes to come and assemble here together and talk in such continuous praise of the Blessed One, the Dhamma and the Sangha of Bhikkhus. Now I am truly eager to go and see the Blessed One, the Arahant, the perfectly awakened one myself. And again, General Sīha went and approached Niganthanataputta and said to him, Bhante, I desire to go and approach the recluse Gautama. By the way, Bhante was not, the term Bhante is not a Buddhist term per se. It's just another term like the term Tathagata that was already in use. Today, it's, to my knowledge, only in Buddhist tradition, and specifically Theravada tradition, within certain regions of Theravada countries, like in Sri Lanka, where they still use the term Bhante to address a monk, a Buddhist monk, a Bhikkhu, because this was also the way that students, both monastics and lay, would address Lord Buddha himself. So, but that doesn't mean that the Jains were not using it. So they were using it too, and as well as the others. But we are the only ones, to my knowledge, that over the course of 2,600 years or so, we still have kept it, to my knowledge. So don't be like, oh, that's a Buddhist term. No, it's not a Buddhist term. That's why we're seeing a Jain addressing Mahavira with that term. And Nigantanataputta again said, Sīha, you being a man of action, why would you even want to go and see the recluse Gotama, who is all about inaction, teaching indifference and impassivity to his students? So he's teaching indifference, he's saying. That means don't do anything. Why though? Why would he be bringing this up? Remember, in Jain tradition, they treat the karma, they call it, as the negative aspects of karma, as knots. Think of it as knots, or like dark spots upon the person. So they need to remove those, scrape those off with action, usually ascetic practices, austerity specifically. Earlier, before you sat, I was jokingly saying how in this tradition we don't sleep on, a bed of nails. Well, guess where we get that from? Jains are known for that. So for them, that was one of the ways that they can actually scrape off the negative actions of a person. And their goal has been and is still to get rid of your bad karma while alive by doing the opposite of what you have done. As if somebody actually has a score sheet with a clipboard saying, okay, that's checked off, so you eliminated this much. Somebody's doing the bookkeeping or math. Lord Buddha would actually joke about this. How would they know, he would say? Who's going to tell you how much deficit you've created in the karmic bag of debts? It's a joke. But it keeps, a joke that actually keeps the people in power remain in power, because people would come and pay large amounts of money thinking that they're getting rid of their karma, especially when you're imposing physical torture upon them. That's also the term that we have, tapas or tapa, which is not the Spanish tapas, but it's the torturous, like creating heat, arduous effort. But Lord Buddha took those terms and he gave it a proper Dhammic interpretation as demonstrated in his life, because there needs to be wisdom, he kept on saying. So what he is using here, Mahavira, are what is his brain picking up from the things that he is seeing not being done by the Buddha and his disciples. They're not lying down on a bed of nails. They're not walking around naked, which Lord Buddha shunned. It's deplorable seeing a grown man or grown woman also walking around naked in the name of spiritual practice, because he saw what that would lead to. It's ugly, it's dirty, it's vulgar, but he didn't see it like that, Mahavira. So that's where he's also coming from. And he continues, Sīha, the recluse Gotama, teaches inaction, instructing indifference to his disciples, encouraging inaction and passivity. In hearing these words, General Sīha's intentions of going to see the Blessed One subsided for a second time. Then, for a third time, many well-known Lichavis assembled together, and while seated in their great assembly hall, they were talking in praise of the Blessed One, the Dhamma and the Sangha of Bhikkhus. Yet again, seated among them, General Sīha began reflecting. Well, surely the Blessed One must indeed be an Arhat. a perfectly awakened one. For all these well-known Lichavi princes to come and assemble here together and talk in such continuous praise of the Blessed One, the Dhamma and the Sangha of Bhikkhus. Now I am truly eager to go and see the Blessed One, the Arahant, the perfectly awakened one myself. What am I concerned about? Or why do I even need to obtain the permission or consent of the Jains? This changes things. Why would I need to obtain their permission? In order to go and see the Blessed One, the Arahant, the perfectly awakened one. This is where he's breaking off, because he's finally getting it by the third time. This is not what he's hearing from his superiors. What Jains, Mahavira was telling him. Something's going on, and I'm not getting the full picture. I need to go and see and get the full picture, basically, like a general does. So, at midday, while accompanied by 500 of his military chariots, General Sīha set off from Vesali and went to see the Blessed One. Later, having gone as far as the chariots would carry them, given the terrain, Sīha and his officers dismounted and began approaching the monastery on foot. Once there, General Sīha approached the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, sat down to one side and addressed the Blessed One by saying, Bhante, I have heard this being reported about the Blessed One by some. The recluse Gautama teaches indifference, encouraging inaction and passivity while instructing his disciples. He didn't say my teacher, Mahavira says this, but he's a man of the world, so he knows that Lord Buddha also knows where this is coming from. And he continues, now, Bhante, I would like to know whether this statement I have heard about the Blessed One from others is indeed true. Or are those individuals who are spreading such a report about the Blessed One simply misrepresenting him by stating what is untrue and completely false, thereby accusing the Blessed One wrongly, while saying things that have nothing to do with what you have said or do teach? What a straightforward, upright character the General Sīha must have had to say these things. Today, we don't see this by people, definitely generals included. People are beating around the bush. They always are protecting something, and usually nothing substantially valuable, He's fearlessly going after the jugular, as they say. He's asking the most important question directly. Is this true or not? I heard these things. I have come here to set the record straight by you telling me exactly whether this is true or not. And I'm ready to cut it off, basically, to take what you say about this. He's a man of integrity, definitely. Therefore, are such people, this is his continuation of the sentence, therefore are such people's descriptions accurate and in line with the Dhamma? Or are they simply bringing onto themselves much criticism and blame, given any erroneous and unwholesome representation on their part regarding the Blessed One himself? After all, Bhante, we do not want to be misspeaking the words of the Tathagata, nor misrepresent him by basing what we know on the false statements of others. Here we see General Sīha is also a virtuous man, given what he just said. Because this means that he does not want to be breaking sila. How? Well, if he's carrying around the words, the misspoken, the lies, basically, the falsehood that he has heard even from somebody who's supposed to be noble, like a spiritual teacher, his own teacher, then he's saying, I'm sorry, but even if it's my teacher, I don't want to be making or breaking precept because it's coming from my teacher. I'm not going to blindly believe. So at no point does a teacher lead or connive or coerce his students to go ahead and lie for him. Something that we see again and again and again in the world today by Buddhist monks specifically. It's very shameful, and they're going to really pay for that. Some already have and will continue for a long time, because there's a misrepresentation of their role, the robes, their title as a Buddhist monk, but especially the Dhamma, misrepresenting the Dhamma, which really bears heavily on such wrongdoers. So here we see a General Sīha wanting to break away from that, but he wants to protect himself. So if I were to say, repeat my teacher's words, please, I would like to know if they are correct. If they're not, I'm not going to repeat them, even though he's Mahavira. And here's where Lord Buddha comes in with his responses. And because it's the book of the from the book of the eights, we see it outlined in eights. Sīha, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gotama does not take action, while encouraging inaction and passivity when teaching the Dhamma to his disciples. Lord Buddha is saying, well, if you look at it from a certain angle, I guess it can be argued that I do teach inaction, but depending. So context, Lord Buddha is saying context. Let's look at the context. Just don't go blindly, just, repeating, parroting somebody else's statements. Let's look at what is this referring to, this thing about being passive or inactive. 2, Sīha, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gotama only talks about actions while encouraging the engagement in deeds when teaching the Dhamma to his disciples. So it's like hyper vigilant, I guess, only doing. It's basically no meditation in that sense, at least observably. The person is sitting quiet, so they need to be doing actions. That's another accusation that he was getting from the Jains. 3, Sīha, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gotama is an annihilationist, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of annihilation. This was another accusation that was targeting Lord Buddha. And we've done a sutta about a month ago, I think, where, was it the Veranja Sutta? I can't remember. But basically, we see these accusations being posited or directed at Lord Buddha at different times in different parts of India. Because when you say to someone, anatta, there is no self, there is no atman or atta, well, everything is dependent on that. When you tell a person who's going and sacrificing 300-400 bulls or thousands of bulls and cows, cattle, to kill them for the sake of sacrificing it to some god, or to attain some type of a liberation for a soul. And then you come in and you, as a Buddhist teacher, come in and say, well, there's no such thing. It's just based on causality, just a bunch of conditions. You just pulled the rug from under that. For them, you annihilated it. So you're annihilationist, nihilist in a sense. So that was another accusation. 4, Sīha, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gotama lives with disgust while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of becoming disgusted. There's the perception of the disgusting nature or repulsive nature of food. We have rules in the Vinaya. For example, you can't go ahead and while eating, go ahead and sucking on your thumb and fingers after you, because there's no spoon in those days, right? Even now, in some places, they will, eat from the bowl or from the plate. And then there will be a lot of curry and oil and seasoning and spices, all that around the fingers. So what people would do is they will suck on their fingers. And it's like, so there's no, Lord Buddha had to make rules for that because it was just, that was disgusting. But they were so reserved. The bhikkhus have these rules. So you don't make the witnessing of a holy person, supposedly holy, be disgusting. You're actually upholding very much of an the integrity of nobility must be there. So you don't do that. That doesn't mean that you are not appreciating what was offered. But what you have here is basically when Jainas would go, especially the naked ones, they would be sitting there completely naked in a room full of women, men, children, young girls, young boys, completely naked. And they would be eating, speaking loudly, talking about the food, how delicious it is. So in their mind, that was actually appreciation of food. That's how you, but when they were looking at Buddhist monks eating with so much decorum and proper demeanor, quietly, silently, they interpreted that and other similar situations as, oh, you bhikkhus, you Buddhists, you bald-headed bhikkhus are in fact living with disgust. Completely, you see, completely, it's deranged way of thinking. But that's what people do to maintain their course in their caravan. Oversimplifying, overgeneralizing, stigmatizing others who don't fit their own schema, their own narrative. 5, Sīha, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gotama is a destroyer while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of destruction. This was an accusation that was thrown at Lord Buddha quite a number of times, especially from the rich families, royal, and the merchant families, even Brahmin families, because many of them had, the bhikkhus, that is, they left their families, or the unmarried son, the only son of, in some cases, the only inheritor of the entire fortune of the family, walked away, went forth and became a bhikkhu. What happened to all that treasure? What happened to the family name? It got destroyed. Hence, they would point the finger at Lord Buddha and saying, you're the destroyer of families, you're the destroyer. So that's where they would come from. 6, Sīha, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gotama is a crusher, promoting self-burnout, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of crushing through self-burnout. Earlier, before we sat, I was mentioning how important it is for us to, every so often, take away from this vast bank account of sleep time. We've been sleeping for our entire life. Think about that. Entire life. If you're 30, that means for 30 years you've slept. And if you want to be specific, roughly you can average it out to about 8 hours. Some people actually sleep more than that. That's going to be thousands upon thousands of hours. So Lord Buddha would encourage people to have the vigor, to have the vigilance, to get up early in the morning, do walking meditation, or right after lunch, not to go ahead and lounge and just sleep. No, continue. Yes, fine, you can't sit because your belly is full. Why that is happening, that's also your fault, because you don't know any moderation of food intake. Okay, but we've passed that point. Okay, at least don't go to sleep. Go do some walking meditation. So people would be seeing this and they would say, oh, you're promoting self-burnout. Oh, let the bhikkhu lounge. Let the bhikkhu go ahead and sleep. Why are you being so strict? Why is the person homeless? Why has the person gone forth? Nobody forced him. Nobody, no monk has ever been forced. It's the person's own desire, that Dhamma chanda, the desire for Dhamma, that requires some sacrifice. But they again went ahead with overgeneralizations, and they're accusing Lord Buddha of something that he's not. 7. Sīha, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is a promoter of ending life while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of abandoning and putting an end. Sometimes some monks would have such a strong adhitthana, they would say, I'm going on this boulder, I'm going to sit there until I die. I'm not going to go on Pindapada until I've attained Nibbana. Now that is adhitthana par excellence, like top tier, to be able to do that despite all odds. So people would see this and they would say, oh, you're promoting the ending of life. Again, not true. And 8. Sīha, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is a provider of relief while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of relief, offering consolation and support. So, and then you see this, the complete opposite of all that. Oh, then now they're blaming him for being a place of comfort, a refuge to his bhikkhus, because you'd never see anywhere in any of the historical records we might find of other teachers who would leave their kuti and go visit the infirmary where the sick bay is or was. Lord Buddha would go visiting the sick, washing the sick, washing the bodies of filthy body of bhikkhus. We have records of this. We have them in suttas, actual suttas, where Lord Buddha asks a bhikkhu whom he is seeing completely covered in his own boils that were, the pus was coming out, so it smells terribly. Nobody's been taken because the clothes, his robes were sticking to him because the pus had dried and he can't move, he's in so much pain. Lord Buddha would be that source of relief. And he calls Ananda over and he says, help me here. So they both wash this bhikkhu, the body, they get him new robes, and they cover up the wounds with new ointment. And later on, Lord Buddha addresses the bhikkhus as to why they left such a bhikkhu alone and they haven't been tending to his wounds. You never see anything like that in any other teacher, contemporary teacher. Lord Buddha was even being accused for that. Imagine. And now Lord Buddha actually will go point by point answering each of these. And what Sīha would be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama does not take action while encouraging inaction and passivity when teaching the Dhamma to his disciples. Here it must be known, Sīha, that I do not, in fact, take action while also encouraging inaction and passivity when teaching the Dhamma to my disciples. That is, encouraging inaction and passivity towards all evil and unwholesome bodily misbehavior, towards all evil and unwholesome verbal misbehavior, and towards all evil and unwholesome mental misbehavior, in addition to any and all kinds of harmful and bad actions. That means when I have the urge, when the person has the urge to retaliate to someone who said something mean to them, that is when I teach my students to do inaction. You see the context? They were being, in a sense, inactive in the presence of akusala action. When there's the tendency, the drive in them to push them, like that caravan I was referring to. Caravan of habitual patterns, tendencies and drives, what we call them sankharas. There they are knocking on behind your skull. Hey, we have to say something. We have to retaliate. What are you doing? Lord Buddha would teach his disciples to keep your mouth shut and check the mind. Check the internal dialogue. There needs to be understanding. It's not just blindly doing, following some rules, precepts, or Vinaya rules. We need to understand why we're doing that, why we're living with that training. Therefore, Sīha, that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gotama does not take action, while encouraging inaction and passivity when teaching the Dhamma to his disciples. So there goes that. Perfect example of using what something basically out of context, which opponents love to do. 2. And what, Sīha, would be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gotama only talks about actions while encouraging the engagement in deeds when teaching the Dhamma to his disciples? Here it must be known, Sīha, that I do, in fact, talk about actions while also encouraging the importance of engaging in good and wholesome bodily deeds and behavior, engaging in good and wholesome verbal deeds and behavior, and engaging in good and wholesome mental deeds and behavior. This is the opposite of what the first one was, which in this case is when you're in a situation where there needs to be skillful actions taken, or no one is doing something that is skillful because of whatever reason, and you go out on a limb and you say something that others are not daring to say, but you know that once you say it, it will bring soothing, contentment, relief. This beautiful sense of safety in another person, simply because they hear you say those words, because no one else was offering them that. It's not a lie. It's based on facts. And contextually, it's necessary because it's also going to engender, it's going to cause the origination of positive, wholesome, skillful, kusala states to arise in that person who's going to hear those words from us, who are now being active with it. I'm just giving the example of verbal action, by the way, in both cases. So same thing with mental action or physical action. This means, again, you need to leave the pattern way of living, being in the passenger seat of your life, of your old tendencies, and doing, just following along, just humming along, and just doing whatever comes so-called naturally, meaning lazily. But even if you're lazily doing something, that doesn't mean you're not collecting bad karma. You sure are. With your inaction, when there is a situation where you could do something for someone else, and you're refusing because you want to protect your assets, let's say, or how you look to others, a reputation, guess what? That inaction, so-called inaction, caused you plenty of bad merit-making, well, results. So Lord Buddha says, in that context, yeah, sure, I do promote action. Therefore, Sīha, that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the reckless Gautama only talks about actions, while encouraging the engagement in deeds when teaching the Dhamma to his disciples. And what Sīha, this is number 3, Sīha would be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the reckless Gautama is an annihilationist, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of annihilation. Here it must be known, Sīha, that I am in fact an annihilationist, while teaching the Dhamma to my disciples for the sake of annihilation. That is, here's the caveat, the annihilation of lust or passion, of hatred and delusion, the kilesas, and the annihilation of any and all kinds of harmful and bad actions. Therefore, see how that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is an annihilationist, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of annihilation. You know, Lord Buddha even used the word kill, to the shock and horror of most, politically correct type of Buddhist or people who claim to be Buddhist, teachers or otherwise, to their shock. Here's another shocker. Lord Buddha even said, you have to kill your own mother and father. When people hear that, they're really shocked. Again, context, folks. Ignorance or delusion and craving. Ignorance is the father, craving is the mother. Okay? You have to kill ignorance. That's another thing that they want to remove from our vocabulary. You can't use that. Well, nature does that with trees, the leaves on the trees. What happens? Animals, people. What is anicca? So we have to think in context. So annihilation. We have to annihilate delusion. We have to annihilate hatred. We have to annihilate lust and passions. We have to eradicate them, kill them, get rid of them. Otherwise, you can't live cozily with another. Any of these, by the way. You know, we're not allowed to keep pets. Shock. There are people, monks in Asia and other places who keep dogs, pets, not to protect the premises or the temple. No, I mean like in their office space, in their bedroom, in their, you can't keep that even. Why? Companionship. Okay, if I can't keep that, something that's going to be helping me, how am I so cozying up with greed? How am I cozying up with, becoming friends with, intimate with hatred, anger? Same thing with delusion. No, these things are there to be obliterated. So you need to get comfortable with these terms. Really get comfortable, because there's no other way to experience Nibbana. You cannot sweet talk your way into it. You need to get rid of things, destroy things, so you can make room in your heart for Nibbana. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Because what we have become, even more so than in ancient times, we've become worshippers of words, semantics, concepts, absolute nonsense. Dukkha doesn't care for your words, Therefore, Sīha, that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is an annihilationist, well, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of annihilation. 4. And what Sīha would be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama lives with disgust, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of becoming disgusted? Here it must be known, Sīha, that I do in fact live with disgust towards all types of bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, and mental misconduct, in addition to any and all kinds of harmful and evil actions. Therefore, Sīha, that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama lives with disgust, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of becoming disgusted. You must become disgusted with your harmful thoughts. That's part of right effort, by the way. You must become so sick of saying harsh words, cursing, swearing, destroying somebody's mood and day or week with a gesture. We must become disgusted by doing something that brings ruin to others and ourselves in the in the process. So yeah, I teach disgust, he says, in that context. And what Sīha would be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is a destroyer, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of destruction? Well, here also it must be known, Sīha, that I am in fact a destroyer, for I do teach individuals and their families the Dhamma that dismantles and drives out lust, hatred, and delusion from people's hearts, in addition to any and all kinds of harmful and evil qualities that are driven out from them. So he's a destroyer of the kileshas. Therefore, Sīha, that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama is a destroyer, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of destruction. And what, Sīha, would be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is a crusher, promoting self-burnout, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of crushing through self-burnout? In that case, Sīha, it must be known that I am in fact a crusher. For I do teach and emphasize the crushing and burning out of evil and unwholesome bodily conduct, verbal unwholesome conduct, and mental unwholesome conduct. That's one of the reasons why I mentioned that we don't even keep pets. Because at one point there was a Bhikkhu who befriended a Naga. Yeah. So he was living in I forgot which monastery. He might have been living in the forest in his kuti. And one day, one of the bhikkhus came by and the Naga had shapeshifted back to being a Naga. So he saw that there was this big snake in his kuti, sleeping with the monk. So the news gets to Lord Buddha, and that's, the rest is history, as it were. And there's other cases where things were happening with animals, disgusting. Some bhikkhus were, hey, it's not, they're not human, so it's a monkey or something. So they were engaging in sexual behavior. Well, you can't do these things. Well, how about bodily evil action? What about verbal, communication-based action, meaning speech? Would you take trash and put it in your mouth? Would you get an ashtray full of cigarette butts and ash and all the disgusting things and dump them in your mouth? Yes, I know it's a horrible picture, but could you do that? You're even having a difficulty with the picture I'm presenting. You're not liking it. Part of you is not liking it, I'm sure. But somehow we're okay with entertaining evil and bad thoughts, saying bad words to ourselves first. Why is that? We need to crush that out first. Out of us, destroy that, get rid of that tendency. Because the ashtray doesn't belong in your mouth. Of course not. But why do we do that? How about your negative self-talk? Self-talk, the negative, toxic things we tell ourselves. Who will stop us from doing that? No one, because they can't hear us. Especially if we put on a face, faking it. Meanwhile, we keep kicking ourselves in the gut, constantly abusing ourselves. That is also bodily misconduct, mental misconduct, verbal misconduct. So we need to crush these things out of us. Lord Buddha continues this, because I declare that one who has indeed removed completely the unwholesome and evil qualities from one's heart is in fact a crusher. Someone who has burned out and cut off all evil and harmful qualities from their very roots, just like a palm tree, turning it into a dead stump, having obliterated it from ever growing any shoots again. If you cut the palm tree's head or any part of it, poof, gone. It won't grow back. So let's learn from palm trees. Let's cut the head off of these. No one will. That's what the precepts are trying to teach you, helping you to do. Cut the head off these evil tendencies, period. There we go. Well, I thought Buddhism was so benign and so, see, La La Land. These people are so disillusioned, clueless about the Dhamma. That's why they perpetuate their existence in samsara for many, many, many lifetimes to come. Because they have based themselves on wrong view. For you see, Sīha, the Tathagata has indeed destroyed and eliminated all manner of evil and unwholesome qualities from his heart by crushing, burning out, and cutting off all evil and harmful qualities from their very roots, just like a palm tree, turning it into a dead stump, having obliterated it from ever growing any shoots again. Therefore, Sīha, that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is a crusher, promoting self-burnout, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of crushing through self-burnout. And what, Sīha, would be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama promotes the ending of life, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of abandoning and putting an end? It must be known, Sīha, that I do teach the ending of perpetually existing, giving up the desire to keep going from womb to womb in the endless cycles of re-becoming, putting a final stop to all future rebirths from taking place again. This because I declare that the one who has indeed eradicated and removed completely the desire for re-becoming from one's heart is in fact an ender. Someone who has given up and cut off any chances for a future rebirth from ever taking place, having cut it off just like a palm tree, turning it into a dead stump, obliterating it from ever growing any shoots again. So you see, Sīha, the Tathagata has therefore completely given up and thus ended all perpetual future existences. This is also, by the way, a lion's roar, you can say. Putting a final stop to all future rebirths from ever taking place again. This because he has eradicated and removed from his heart completely the desire for re-becoming, and is in fact an ender. The one who has given up and cut off any chances for a future rebirth from taking place, having cut it off just like a palm tree, turning it into a dead stump, obliterating it from ever growing any shoots again. Therefore, Sīha, that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama promotes the ending of life, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of abandoning and putting an end. And here's the last point. And what, Sīha, would be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is a provider of relief, giving comfort, while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of relief, offering consolation and support? It must be known here, Sīha, that I am indeed the provider of supreme relief, the highest comfort and solace to ever be experienced, the safety and consolation that only could come through training and practicing this Dhamma. Therefore, Sīha, that might be a situation according to which it may be possible to rightfully claim that the recluse Gautama is a provider of relief, giving comfort while teaching the Dhamma to his disciples for the sake of relief, offering consolation and support. Sadhu indeed. Now, once these words had been spoken, General Sīha addressed the Blessed One and said, "It is excellent, O Lord. It is marvelous, Bhante. The Blessed One has made the Dhamma clear to me in many ways. I feel as though the Tathagata has turned upright what was overturned, revealing what was hidden, showing the correct path to someone who was lost, as though one were to bring a lamp into the darkness for all those with eyesight to see. Bhante, I do go for refuge to the Blessed One, the Dhamma and the Sangha of Bhikkhus. May the Blessed One accept me as his lay disciple who has taken refuge in him from today until the end of life." Now see what Lord Buddha says. And the Blessed One said to General Sīha, "Sīha, please, you must first consider thoroughly, thinking carefully before you act, because it is only appropriate for well-known and prominent individuals in society, like yourself, to think about your role in the community first, and only afterwards declare your faith in the Tathagata by making such a bold declaration." Lord Buddha is calculating, he knows already that Sīha is a big supporter of the Jains, the Mahavira. And now General Sīha, with all his entourage, with all his prestige, he's a protector of the domain, basically. Everybody looks to him, for him, to protect their land, their properties, their families, their wealth. By him now becoming a supporter of Lord Buddha, that means automatically he no longer supports the Jains, Mahavira. So Lord Buddha is saying, be careful, because most probably they've been Jains for a while, his family. But look what General Sīha responds with. And General Sīha exclaimed, "Bhante, now I am even more impressed, touched, and fully certain in my heart, so utterly delighted to hear these words of the Blessed One. Sīha, please, you must first consider thoroughly." So he repeats that. By the way, all of this is available online on the website, mindreleased.com, in the Pali Sutta section. So please, when you get a chance, to print the PDF so you read it, because some places I might be going fast. So I've done all this so you can have that in your hands. So following it along is much better while you're reading at your own pace. So, and Sīha now adds to that. "For if it were any of the leaders of some other faith or sect, hearing that they were about to acquire me as their disciple and supporter, they would immediately carry me about like a banner through the streets of Vesali, announcing to everyone, 'General Sīha has now become my disciple and supporter.' Yet here, not only do I not see the Blessed One doing such a thing, but he is even cautioning me with his words of advice by saying, 'Sīha, think carefully before you act,' etc., etc. Therefore, Bhante, for the second time, I go for refuge to the Blessed One, to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of Bhikkhus. May the Blessed One accept and remember me as one of his lay followers who has gone to him as his refuge for life. Now, Lord Buddha has something to say. But Sīha, remember that for a long time, your family and relations have been avid supporters of the naked Jains Nigantas. And to this end, you should consider that alms food continue to be offered to them when they come to your home for alms. You never see this anywhere else from any other teacher. He's concerned about whether they will stop getting their food and support. These people who are spreading lies about Lord Buddha, in fact, sending criminals to kill Lord Buddha. In some suttas, you see that, where they even conspire. There's so many conspiracies that they get involved in. Actors they hire to blame Lord Buddha of things, obscene things, killing people. And here Lord Buddha is saying, make sure they still get your support though. And he says, Sīha says, Bhante, now I am even more impressed, touched, and joyful in my heart, so utterly delighted to hear these words of the Blessed One. For I have often heard the Jains claim that the recluse Gotama declares the following. So this is what they had said about Lord Buddha, Jains, that Lord Buddha has been saying this to his disciples. Offerings should only be made to me, not to other leaders of sects. Offerings should be made only to my disciples and not to the disciples of other sects. Offerings made to my disciples are of great fruit, but not the offerings made to others. These were other lies as well. But here, on the contrary, the Blessed One yet again caringly advises me to continue making offerings to those naked Jain Nigantas. Therefore, Lord, when the time is appropriate, we shall provide meal offerings to them as necessary. Look at the humility. He says, Bhante, I take what you said, and when it's appropriate, when the situations allow, we will make sure that the provisions continue of support to those people. Bhante, for the third time I go for refuge to the Blessed One and to the Dhamma and to the Sangha of Bhikkhus. May the Blessed One accept and remember me as one of his lay followers who has gone to him for refuge for life. Then, this is where it gets interesting, as if up to this point was not. Then the Blessed One taught General Sīha the Dhamma, as he gradually unraveled it for him. Remember, the Dhamma is a gradual path. It requires tender, careful unfolding by a teacher. Beginning with a discourse on being generous and the benefits of making offerings. This is dana. Then a discourse on the benefits of developing a virtuous character through one's behavior with mental, verbal, and bodily actions. That is sila. This is the order we follow. Followed by a discourse on the heavenly realms. We live today in a society that is truly nihilistic. It does not believe in the presence of devas or other worlds, or that there are actions that we commit that will bring to us consequences. Their consequences, not something else. If you plant a mango seed, Lord Buddha said, you are not going to get an orange or a banana. You will get a mango. So if your action is evil, it will produce an evil response, a consequence, a fruit. It won't go to your neighbors, it will come to you. It has your name on it, whichever part of the existence you land in. It's your action. You're the source of that ripple created. So the devas are very real. Today's society needs to know that. If the devas were not real, this planet would have already been destroyed a long time ago. this Dhamma would have been completely destroyed long time ago at the hands of corrupt individuals. The Devas have such a big hand in this, in making sure that we are getting the juicy part of the Dhamma still 26 centuries later. So please, in your meditations, always do acknowledge that. Every time you eat a meal, do acknowledge through your appreciation for the Devas, and use the food you're eating, you're consuming, the nice pillow you're resting your head on. Use all these resources for attaining the paths and fruits of this noble and holy Dhamma, because that's why the Devas are helping us. In a sense, it is they help us, we help them, they help us, we help them. So it's an ongoing, beautiful, beautiful cycle. So, followed by a discourse on the heavenly realms. Then the Blessed One explained the dangers that come through the pursuit of sensual desires, the depraved consequences of living such a vain life, the vileness of defiling pursuits in life, and the wonderful benefits of giving all that up. Basically, everything that today's modern day business world, advertising, propaganda teaches is against the Dhamma. Pursuit of sensual pleasures. Go after this, after that. Try to find gratification and fulfillment through your six sense doors. But no one's there to return back to you the money you spent, because at the end of that so-called gratification that you were promised, you never got anything. It was an empty promise, especially at the end of your life, at the end of people's lives. There are no sets of bankers who come with briefcases of money and time to give back to you, to credit you with, for all that you've wasted pursuing these lies that they've been filling your head up with since you were born. Only the Dhamma has a response. But it doesn't come at the end of life. The Dhamma has always been telling us, reminding us, case in point, now, of where we need to put our attention and leave the caravan of delusion, our delusion, and do what needs to be done through Samvega. And only you can do that. No one can breathe for you. No one can see for you. No one can eat for you. No one can feel for you. No one definitely can become awakened for you. Then, when it was time, while observing that the mind of General Sīha was ready, malleable, free from hindrances, elevated and contented, the Blessed One expounded to him the exalted Dhamma of the Buddhas, that is, the truth of suffering, the truth of the arising and origin of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path that leads one to the cessation of suffering. Then, suddenly, just like a pure, clean cloth with all its impurities removed would take on dye evenly, in the same manner, the spotless, stainless vision of the Dhamma arose in the heart of General Sīha, just as he kept sitting there, listening attentively to his teacher, with his hands gently clasped together. And he knew in his heart with unshakable certainty, whatever arises from causes is also of the very nature to cease. Thus, General Sīha then and there tasted the Dhamma, as he came to know the Dhamma by penetrating it, whereby his doubts were dispelled, and through the unprecedented confidence gained from this experience, He realized that he no longer needed another teacher in the dispensation, as he said to the Blessed One, Bhante, please accept tomorrow's meal from me, together with the Sangha of Bhikkhus. And the Blessed One accepted the invitation with his silence. This, because I get the question of Sotapati a lot. Bhante, how should we know? How should one know whether they have attained? We've had people who claim that you see lights, you see the dependent origination, this and that, and oftentimes people neglect to consider the countless times that Lord Buddha and the other Arya Savakas have been mentioning again and again and again throughout the suttas, that there is this unshakable faith in the triple gem that takes place in the heart of the person, where you become completely and once and for all transformed beyond recognition to yourself. You stop being the old person you were. There is faith that is out of this world, and it's not temporary, mind you. There is this strong, terribly, powerfully established confidence and trust in the Dhamma and recognition of the Dhamma wherever it may be, and recognition of Adhamma wherever it shows up. In the name of Dhamma that's being sold to people, to you, you will recognize it. You will sniff it out very quickly. There you go. That is a very personal, direct experience. That's an abhinya. Higher knowledge, you might call it. Direct understanding. That is one of the key characteristics of the Sotapanna. Unshakability of faith. And you definitely cannot even fathom a possibility where you could place someone other than the Buddha, meaning somebody else like Jesus or, I don't know, Lao Tzu or some other teacher, or a teacher who claims to be open, a Buddhist teacher who open to other traditions and looking at them. Yeah, they were like Buddha. Yeah, the Buddha was the same as this teacher, that teacher throughout his, there's no way for a noble disciple to say such a thing. It's unthinkable. Unthinkable. Because for you, there is only one Dhamma. You have found your teacher. That is what a Sotapanna experiences. It's undeniable. No words could explain it thoroughly, but the person will know. That's why they will never go back to the lower realms. It's impossible. And that's why they also cannot break Sīla. Not because they plan it out that, no, I can't, no, I shouldn't. There's a reason. There's a compelling energy underneath. It's like the deep currents under the ocean. On the surface, it might feel like there's no waves, hardly any waves, but there's a deep, powerful current pushing incalculable amounts, volumes of water across. Thus, invitation, and Lord Buddha accepted with his silence. And that's a typical way where Lord Buddha and the noble disciples would accept something through their silence. If they would be unwilling to do something, they would say. But if they kept quiet when an offer was made, then usually meant that, usually, if not always, would mean that they have accepted the offer to go, let's say, lunch dana or something. Then General Sīha, understanding that the Blessed One had accepted his invitation for the next day's meal, dana, approached and paid his respect, and after circumambulating the Blessed One, went away. Later, while addressing one of his servants, General Sīha instructed him by saying, "Friend, go to the market and find someone who is selling already cut meat, that is, ready for sale, and bring some for us to prepare tomorrow's lunch." "Yes, master," the man replied, as he went off to fetch some meat from the market. Then, throughout the night, General Sīha kept supervising his servants and workers up until the early morning hours, as they all prepared a variety of nourishing foods and healthy drinks at his home for the lunch dana. And once everything was ready, he sent word to the Blessed One, "Bhante, it is time. The meal is ready." Then in the morning, the Blessed One put on his robes, and by taking his alms bowl and outer robe, he went and approached General Sīha's home, along with the Sangha of Bhikkhus. Once there, the Blessed One and the rest of the monks all sat on the prepared seats. Meanwhile, many Jains, the Nigantas, had already begun marching from street to street, from district to district, while shouting with their raised arms in protest. This is happening in Vaishali. Today, General Sīha, in his desire to offer a meal for the recluse Gotama, has slaughtered a strong bull. And the recluse Gotama, who is responsible for this atrocious action, sits and eats that very meat with his monks, knowing full well that the animal was slaughtered for him. Look at the lies. Look at the crazy trip that they're going through. Sadistic. Did you see what the General Sīha had said? I'll read it again. Go fetch someone, find someone who's selling already cut meat that is ready for sale. This is key. In fact, well, let me finish this and I'll tell you in connection to the Vinaya rules. So they're spreading, walking around like protesting because they just lost the big supporter of Mahavira in Vesali. Then a certain man came quickly as he ran back to General Sīha to report what was happening, as he whispered in his ear, "My lord, please be informed that many Jains have begun marching from street to street, from district to district, while shouting with their raised arms in protest." So they recount the whole thing, that the animal was slaughtered for Gautama, and Gautama's eating, knowing full well that so all that. And General Sīha replied by saying, "Enough. Those marching fools who call themselves teachers and religious practitioners have been trying for a long time now to sully and dishonor the reputation of the Blessed One, as they slander and with their malicious lies attempt to discredit the Tathagata, the Dhamma, and the Sangha of Bhikkhus. Those putujanas, dense, dumb fools, basically, unlearned idiots, by making these false accusations and baseless assumptions against the Blessed One, cannot destroy the reputation and fame of the Blessed One. Those idiots cannot understand that it is simply impossible for us to knowingly destroy life." Here now he's including himself within the noble disciples, by the way, if you noticed. He cannot understand it is impossible for us to knowingly destroy life. That's another thing. Remember, I said if a person becomes a Sotapanna, they cannot break Sīla. The first of which is harming and killing another living being intentionally. But they have no concept of that. There's no liberation. There's no awakening in Jainism or any of the other traditions. We have to be able to know and say this, not with the intention of creating discord or disharmony. No, but facts are the facts. But they can't understand that. That's why they're going around and lying. And he continues, it's simply impossible for us to knowingly destroy life or intentionally slaughter a living being, not even to save our own life, he says. Even if our life is dependent on it and there's a cow or an animal, you cannot go and kill the animal. A Sotapanna cannot do that. Even if his whole entire family is hungry, he won't go around and say, sorry, buddy, I have to kill you so that I won't eat, but they will eat, but I will kill you so that my child eats. There's no such thing. A Sotapanna can never do that. How many vegans today can do that? It's a challenge that was placed in front of us by Lord Buddha. Not just Lord Buddha, but all the Arya Savakas, because there's all this talk and talk and talk and nothing else. The world is in fire. All of a sudden, you see these so-called non-violent, flower-wearing, peace-loving so-called people suddenly saying, yeah, we should go and destroy those people over there. What happened with the whole non-violence jazz? What happened? You have to live what you're saying. This is not a fad. A Sotapanna is not practicing non-violence because he's following a fad, a trend, a current trend, like a style that's in fashion. No. I know people who became vegetarian and then that kind of faded out and veganism came out, they became vegan. This is not about vegans, by the way. But the thing that needs to be killed is not from within us, the eating of animal flesh or anything like that, because what needs to happen is the getting rid of, not the animal meat eating, but getting rid of the lust in the heart, the hatred in the heart, the delusion in the heart. That, I challenge you to go ahead and get rid of that, because your dietary preferences will change tomorrow. Tomorrow. But not General Sīha's stance on destroying life. Then General Sīha went on offering the nourishing food and healthy drinks we have prepared, as he continued serving them to the Sangha of Bhikkhus, headed by the Blessed One, doing so with his own hands until every single one of them were fully satiated. Seeing that the Blessed One had finished taking the meal, the General Sīha sat on a low seat, placed to one side. Then the Blessed One, having instructed General Sīha further by encouraging and inspiring him with a delightful talk on the Dhamma, which made everyone's heart become lighter and fully gladdened, he got up from his seat and left. Sadhu, sadhu. Powerful sutta. Upali Sutta came after this because I recommend you go ahead and listen to that one as well, because in there you see how Nigantanataputta, Mahavira, really is afraid to let, his surrounding, his entourage is afraid to let his other supporter, the lay person, the layman, householder, rich prince actually, his name was Upali, because he fed him lies and he sent him off to go to Lord Buddha thinking that this is impossible. He's such a devout student. He's going to go and beat Lord Buddha in a debate with him and defeat him. The other Jain supporters, they said, no, you don't understand. You're going to lose this one too. Don't let him go. You see it in the suttas. And Mahavira, because he was so conceited, so arrogant, despite his age, well, age doesn't have anything to do with it, right? So because as Venerable Mahakachana says to a Brahmin in the book of the Twos, in the Anguttara Nikaya, he says, age means nothing. for gaining of respect, or if you are very old, the person is very old, but their heart is still very lustful, full of hatred, full of delusion, they might be over 100. They don't deserve respect in this sasana, in this Dhamma and discipline. Whereas you have somebody over there who's he doesn't even have hair on his chin. Young kid, maybe 16, 17, maybe less. But they live with virtue. Their heart is anchored upon Sila, Samadhi, Panya. They can never tolerate lust in the heart. And they are interested in wisdom. He says, guess who deserves honor? The young boy versus the 100-year-old Brahmin who is completely lost in lust. Simply because the body is not functioning, that's why they're acting wise and stuff. But the moment they have more vigor and return to the body, they're lustful. They're running around and doing the things that they were doing when they're 20. What is there to respect in that? So we need to reevaluate our mores and our cultural so-called fake sensibilities and measuring tools. One thing that also, with Upali, at the end of that discourse, Nigantanata Putta doesn't even believe his ears when he's being told. So he physically gets up and goes to Upali because he happens to be going. He also becomes a Sotapanna Upali because he says immediately, he sees his teacher in Lord Buddha. He says, what was I doing? What was I thinking? And Lord Buddha again asks him, like, do you want to do this? Because you've been supporting the Jains. Don't, you have to think. And he says, Bhante, now I love you even more. If they were in your position, they would have flaunted me around and like a banner, same thing. And then at the end, Mahavira comes and Upali gets up and he bows. He doesn't even give him the higher seat. That's what you're normally supposed to do to your teacher or someone you respect. So he doesn't even get up from his seat like, you would give him, he stands up, on his position, in his higher seat. Mahavira can't believe his eyes. How dare you? And then Upali bows in the direction of Lord Buddha, and he beautifully, right on the spot, weaves this wonderful 10 set verses where he declares his truth, his lion's roar as an upasaka. And he couldn't handle it, Mahavira, and blood comes out of his mouth and he drops down and dies. That's what the commentaries say. But after that, you don't hear from him again. That was the last. That's how we can also know Upali Sutta came after Sīha Sutta. So I did mention about the last portion of this sutta, the accusation, the lies that they had thrown at General Sīha first, but there's so much bitterness there, you could see, because they just lost their big supporter in Vesali. But on top of that, their animosity towards Lord Buddha, where they accused him and the Sangha that they are eating something that they intentionally knew that was slaughtered for them. On the spot, Lord Buddha actually instituted a Vinaya rule for us to follow. And that is, if we suspect an animal was killed for us, suspect. If we see the animal is being killed for us, if we see the blood being spilled of the animal, if we know that the animal is going to be killed for us, to give us food, let's say somebody, they don't know, they just want to, that's something that they normally do maybe. They're like, for them, it's like they're giving us honor, but we cannot accept that. Why? Because of this incident. Just to shut these people up and also to let them, know that we don't condone such things. How could you swallow that food? How could you even look at that food, knowing that that animal died for you? Some cultures, they embrace that. Not in Buddhism, especially in the context of Vinaya. But you don't have to be a Buddhist monastic to follow this. If you're a Sotapanna, a lay Sotapanna, you know this in your DNA. Okay, that's another thing. When we say faith and trust and confidence in the Dhamma, what are we talking about? Your life is changed. Viscerally, you're a different person, happier person, a real person compared to your older version. So you carry the Vinaya in your heart. That is a noble disciple for you. You might not know the 227 rules, doesn't matter. That's called adisila. You're working towards that. And as the level of the awakening, shall we say, nobility deepens in the person, they become even more sensitive, more subtle nuances of the Vinaya or Sīla. That's why Lord Buddha called it a higher Sīla, higher virtue. Not just what you read in the Patimokkha or recite. No, not Adisila. So I will stop here and see if there are any questions that might need clarification. A beautiful sutta, as you saw. I highly recommend something that came to mind earlier today. Sometimes we might be following a dictum or a way of doing things where we think that one time, either physically or like this, a setting like this, you get to listen to a sutta full from start to finish, and that's that. So you're looking for, okay, the next one, and completely ignoring the value, even the ones that you've already paid attention to, listened to maybe once or twice. Please don't do that. It's Dhamma. And if you are growing, if you're cultivating the mind, if you're developing, now you're developed at your developed stage compared to your undeveloped earlier, let's say a moment earlier, 10 years earlier, 10 months earlier. With today's developed approach, understanding, and wisdom, when you go back and revisit those suttas, I guarantee that you will find things that will give you many aha moments. How come I didn't see this? How come, oh, now I know. That's a treasure that you possess now by going and accessing it. So please don't wait from week to week for new ones for us to do. Please go. There's 99 of them just in this series. Other places I've also done Pali Suttas, of course, in other retreats, but they're all there. So please don't waste a valuable opportunity, because the internet is an amazing medium, despite all that's happening in the world and the media. But it's amazing given the resources it has given to the Dhamma for different teachers, who have different voices to sound. And so here as well, we're trying these things and we're doing all these things and making them available for you to use. So please make use of them, because there's this thing called Samvega. Use all the tools you can. If the mountain climber or somebody who slips as they were climbing up a mountain or a cliff face, a rock face, and there's nothing to grab, and they see a rattlesnake hanging, you think they're going to say to them, "No, I think it's poisonous." And you look down, there's an abyss, 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet drop, guaranteed death, broken limbs. You will reach for the rattlesnake to grab hold of it, and treating it as a rope, you will not care. That's called Samvega, because there's nothing else to grab onto. That's the Dhamma. Of course, the Dhamma is not the rattlesnake in this case. It's not as in Alagadupama Sutta with the water snake. We won't hold the Dhamma from the tail. We hold it from the head. But I'm just using the reference or the simile of reaching for anything you can grab onto. And this, in this case, the tools we have, the media, the YouTube, or whatever podcasts and things. Or you have 5 minutes to open up and read a section from a sutta or a Dhammapada. Do it. Or to just watch the breath. Do it. Or you feel like there's so much pain in the world. Let me see if I can actually open up my heart, feel some of that metta, and then just generate it out. So, yeah, but I'm just one person. The world is in such a chaos. That's not your business. Don't worry. You'd be surprised how much it will influence the world. Just a little drop of metta coming from your part of the world. Even if you're the only one you think is generating metta. Even that is wonderful. To keep this world safe, and especially to keep the sasana alive, preserving it. If there are no questions or comments, let us transfer some merits. Akasatha chabhumata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu loka sasanam. Akasatha chabhumata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu desanam. Akasatha chabhumata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu mambaranti. So, and for all those around the world celebrating lunar, sometimes called also Chinese New Year, Happy New Year to all of you, to your families. May it bring you many, many auspicious good fortune, great blessings, and making use of this beautiful, rare gem that it is living in this human form. And despite all the difficulties that you might be facing in life, still you have a form and you have the Dhamma. What a rare, rare, rare gift. So many more beings die and never attain for a long time a human birth. So many of us who are dying human beings are going straight to the lower realms. That's a fact. So few, even fewer beings are being reborn in heavenly realms. But here is where we can make a difference. So may it be auspicious to you, to your family. May there be joys in everyone's heart and less suffering. May you carry the Dhamma with you wherever you go, brightening up the worlds that you get to touch and visit. May the Triple Gems blessings be with you. Until next time, we'll see you. Sukhi Hota.